What's up, everyone? Wait, are we live? Oh, there we go. Okay. What's up, everyone? It's Ruby here, bringing you guys live from the ARM TV. I'm your host, Ruby Moon, and today we have another episode of RubyCast live. So, it's been a little bit since we did another, sort of podcast episode. Been focusing on finishing school. Well, finishing this semester of schoolwork. And now we finished it, which means I'm back home, at least for the winter break, and we have time to talk. We have time to talk. We have time to stream. We have time to do a lot of things. So yesterday I did the commentary for the Game Awards. I am having to fix it because despite my efforts, I still got copyrighted. Gotta love it. David Bowie is giving me a hard time, apparently. It's processing, so I have to wait for it all to actually go through, but I'm gonna have to trim out some parts, which is a shame, because honestly, most of everything that I did is under fair use, but, doesn't really matter if, it doesn't really matter if the labels say otherwise. And, I'm not really going to dispute the claims because it's not worth it. I might as well just cut it out. If they don't want it, whatever. It always happens, there's always, one trailer that I leave unmuted that has, copyrighted music. It's a shame. I wish they didn't put in those copyrighted music in there. It would make my life so much easier if they just stuck with, their original stuff or whatever. Did something that did not take up the copyright slots. But there's nothing I can do about it other than just trim it out. So that is in the works. And I decided today would be the perfect opportunity to talk about how to fix copyright issues. Now that's a very daunting task that I don't envy for anyone. But, as we're talking about how copyright is kind of outdated, which it is, the question arises, how would we be able to fix it? Copyright itself is a good thing, okay? It protects the owners for their art, for their work. It makes sure that the people that make the thing get to have say over the thing. It was created so that people wouldn't just copy them. Obviously, it's called copyright. It's the way to secure property, basically. How do you copyright an idea? What qualifies as a copied idea versus an inspired idea? Because inspiration is not copyrighted. It is the intent to rip something off or something. And copyright was first made a long, long time ago, before I was born. So the copyright law was made in 1976. Yes, that's how old it is. So the copyright law is a big one. In fact, it takes up apparently 18 millibytes. Copyright law. Yeah, megabytes. Yeah, megabytes. I meant megabytes. So, I mean, we all know what copyright is, right? I mean, that part is pretty clear. We all know what copyright is. And we understand why it's necessary, because the definition of copyright is a form of intellectual property law, protects original works of authorship, including literary, dramatic, musical, and artistic works, such as poetry, novels, movies, songs, computer software, and architecture. It's not limited to that. Now, copyright is different in every single country. And honestly, in sometimes every single state. Well, it's more federal, though. Copyright is a federal thing. Because, especially nowadays, obviously, you can't really have different copyright laws. Because on the internet, everything is in the same world. It's not about who's in Britain or who's in Australia or who's in China or who's in the United States. What matters is how the internet laws are enforced. Now, the United States of America, does have this thing called fair use. And some other countries also have similar things, but they're not all identical. But at least the U.S. law says, this is what the U.S. law says, under fair use, it says, notwithstanding the provisions of sections 17 United States Constitution 106 and 17 United States Constitution 106A, the fair use of a copyrighted work, including such use by reproduction in copies or phone records, or by any other means specified by that section, for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, including multiple copies of classroom use, scholarship, or research, is not an infringement of copyright. In determining whether the use made of a work in any particular case is a fair use, the factors to be considered shall include the purpose and character of the use, including whether such use is of a commercial nature or is for non-profit educational purposes. Number 2, the nature of the copyrighted work. Number 3, the amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole. And number 4, the effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. Now, that's a whole bunch of legal BS. And basically, it's really hard to argue what copyright law is. What is fair use? Because this language, of course, while it says that certain things have the exemption, right? Or certain things are exempt. For example, criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, or research. So anything that is meant for educational purposes, anything that is meant for scholarship purposes or research purposes, those are all exempt. Those are all free. You can't just copyright them. You also, anything that is reporting the news, right? So if CNN puts out, or Fox or NBC puts out a thing with a story that includes your artwork, as long as they're talking about the subject that is in that image or of that image, they have the right to use it without being, without having to obtain the normal rights that you would normally have to get. When it comes to comment and criticism, this is the line that a lot of people like to use to say that reactions and commentary and certain things like that is okay. However, that's not necessarily the case. Criticism and comment is vague, but it really doesn't say, like, what does comment mean? What does criticism mean? It means you're criticizing or commenting on the work of the piece. For example, if I were to criticize Mozart's concerto, I would talk about the notes, the melody, the harmonies, the instruments that are being played. I would be talking about all of the bits and pieces of said things. But not all of us do that. Is laughing at a funny image, commentating or critiquing the work of an art piece. If I laugh at the Mona Lisa, is that considered commentating or criticizing the art piece? This is where these arguments kind of fall apart. Because really, it's up to the people who own such products to determine that. If they believe that you do not have the right to fair use, or if you're not using it, they will say, nope, we don't want you to use it. And that's a tough one. Because most people won't take these stuff to courts, which is also an issue. But no, I don't blame them for not doing it. But it's an issue because there's not really that many precedents set. There's the famous Lens versus Universal Music Corps, which was made in 2015, which is why we have the fair use law. It's why we have that section that gives us these rights, sort of. And then we also have the H3H3 case, where that also set a precedent, but not really at the same time. Like, people automatically assume that exempted everyone from the case, when it didn't really do that. It is tricky to both protect the rights, the property of people, at the same time allowing other people to still use that property to do something else for them. For example, if you take, like, people often like to use the fact of reacting to videos or commentating on videos and everything, and they say, oh, well, it's it falls under fair use, right, and everything, which I mean, that can be argued whether or not it does. It can be argued whether or not it does, but that's what a lot of people like to argue. But what if I were to take an image from DeviantArt, okay, and I changed the image enough for it to be different, and then posted it, and I don't think there's actually a good use. Never mind. I guess this is from Stanford. What is fair use? In the most general sense of fair use is any copying of copyrighted material done for a limited and transformative purpose, such as to comment upon, criticize, parody a copyrighted work. Such uses can be done without permission from the copyrighted owner. In other words, fair use is a defense against a claim of copyright infringement. If your use qualifies as fair use, then it would not be considered an infringement. So what is a transformative use? If this definition seems ambiguous or vague, be aware that millions of dollars in legal fees have been spent attempting to define what qualifies as a fair use. There are no hard and fast rules, only general guidelines and varied court decisions. Because the judges and the lawmakers who created the fair use exemption did not want to limit its definition. Like free speech, they wanted it to have an expansive meaning that could be open to interpretation. Most fair use analysis falls under two categories. 1, commenting criticism, or 2, parody. If you are commenting upon or critiquing a copyrighted work, for instance, writing a book review, fair use principles allow you to reproduce some of the work to achieve your purposes. Some examples of commentary and criticism include quoting a few lines from Bob Dylan song in a music review, summarizing and quoting a medical article on prostate cancer in a news report, copying a few paragraphs from a news article for use by a teacher or student in a lesson, or copying a portion of Sports Illustrated magazine article for use in a related court case. The underlying rationale of this rule is that the public reaps benefits from your review, which is enhanced by including some of the copyrighted material. Additional examples of commentary or criticism are provided in the examples of fair use cases. Parody. A parody is a work that ridicules another, usually well-known work, by imitating in a comic way. Judges understand that by its nature, parody demands some taking from the original work being parodied. Unlike other forms of fair use, a fair extensive use of original work is permitted in a parody in order to conjure the original. So that's a lot. It basically says that, like, the reaction stuff and the commentary stuff that people do is not really a thing that is okay. And the argument that people were making is that it should be. So how do we fix copyright in order to both still protect those that need it, while also allowing people to commentate and critique it and react to it? Because that is a tough question. And the answer is that it's not easy. At all. You know, people have different solutions. So people have different ways of approaching the situation. You know, some people think one thing is fair use, one thing isn't fair use. And it's I think what needs to happen is that the language in the fair use law needs to be revised. And I think also the copyright law needs to be revised. How? That's really difficult. One, because I don't know legal language. And two, because I guess the question is, what is our goal? Our goal is to stop having these companies that are kind of like abusing their power in a way. And it is difficult. Because on one hand, I understand. I mean, what are they? A lot of these problems stem from the fact that these companies feel like they're being robbed. They feel like people are stealing their content and making money off of it, which is often true. And a lot of the times, these companies just want money. They want to be able to just make the most money that they can. The reason why a lot of them choose to copyright claim, but only for monetization, say on YouTube, is because they simply want money. If they're fine with taking your ad revenue, they just as long as they have your ad revenue, they don't care if you react to it. They don't care what you do with your stuff. Now, I think it's really hard to argue because I think no matter what, people aren't going to be satisfied, and it is hard to figure out how it can actually be changed. How do we fix this issue? I think the biggest issue is that it seems like these copyright claims are just happening out of nowhere. Well, it feels like the biggest problem is the music. The biggest problem is the music. Because I think in terms of movies, that's understandable. In terms of games, I mean, there's kind of an understanding between game developers and the customers. Just in general, like, they're okay with it. There are a few companies that aren't okay with it. And technically speaking, gaming could technically be DMCA'd. But that's not our issue right now. Our issue is the music. The music industry is ruthless. If a game developer pays for a song to use in their game, so they're the ones who's paying for it, and that only allows the game company to use the music. So when it appears in trailers, when game companies use those music in trailers, and the streamers or the YouTubers react to it, the YouTubers and streamers do not have the licenses to listen to this music. So they are not able to do anything about it. Like, they will get copyright claimed. And that's where we have this issue. Where these game companies want to use the music from these trailers, or want to use music in their trailers, or even in their games. And while the game developers are okay with us playing their games and streaming it and everything, the music producers and everything are not okay with us listening to the music that is in the game. While you would think that it should be like equalized, like if a game licenses this copy, right? If a game licenses the music, and then we pay for the game, shouldn't that technically act as a license, as licensing the music in the game. Because a lot of times these music companies and everything, the reason why they allow these game companies to use it is because they're getting paid. They get paid these contracts. So why not maybe offer royalties to the music producers and the music labels? Just royalties for an X number of purchases. Let's say okay, the new Mass Effect game wants to use a song from, I don't know, Katy Perry. And so they want to use Katy Perry's song. But that song that they license is not going to be allowed for us to use it in our streams and in our gameplay. But let's say we adjust some things and say for every 1,000 copies or something, the music labels that have licensed their songs get a 2%, bonus payment. For every certain amount of copies that are sold, the music labels get to see some money. A certain amount of money. Will that then convince them that they're okay with it being streamed and on YouTube? Because at the end of the day, a lot of times these music labels, they just want money. So what if there's a way where we didn't have to pay for a license, but we can just buy the game? And if we buy the game, we're effectively buying a license, and the companies give the music labels a bit of a bonus whenever they reach a certain amount of copies sold. I don't know how it works right now. I assume they work out a deal to use. I assume they basically just license it. Well, and a lot of times these music companies are like, oh well, people can listen to them for free. They don't like it when people listen to their music for free. But they're also on Spotify. They're on iTunes. Not iTunes, but they're on the radio. They're on. They're okay if people buy the game and then listen to their music, but they're just not okay with content creators using that music in their videos. When in reality, there's not really a difference, is there? I can just listen to all the music on Spotify anyways. So why shouldn't I be able to listen to them in the game and be able to stream it? What is the difference? The difference is that they don't get those clicks or whatever on Spotify. If someone watches my stream and hears the music, they don't get to have those numbers going up and up. It doesn't affect their numbers, it affects my numbers. If I have 100 people watching my stream, watching me listen to, I don't know, Aha Take on Me in Saints Row, they Take on Me, Aha doesn't get the numbers that they would normally get on Spotify or YouTube that would give them money, right? If they get a certain amount of numbers, they wouldn't get those 100 people to do it. So I think that is where the issue lies, is that even though you can listen to them free on Spotify and everything, the issue is that when you listen to them on Spotify, you're directly affecting their numbers, and you're therefore somehow paying for them for their success. Meanwhile, if you do it in the game, or if they do it indirect, someone watches your stream and listens to your song, they're not giving those that view to take on to AHA. They're giving it to you. So I guess that's the problem. And so now, if people get like the ad revenue, they're okay with it. As long as they get the ad revenue, as long as they get some sort of compensation, they're okay with it. So how do we fix that to where the music labels are fine and happy with it, while also allowing us to enjoy the music without having to worry about getting copy striked or something like that? Because I think that's really where the main issue is. Like, I'm not saying, oh, we should be able to watch full-length movies and shows and everything. And I mean, I think that part is a little bit trickier. But I think when it comes to music, music is a tricky one. Because music is everywhere. You can't really avoid music. But there's got to be a solution other than just muting all music and just never listening to music ever again. Like, my solution is I just don't play music in my streams or my YouTube. I just mute all the game music and everything. Just mute it all. Never play any background music. No more Skyrim theme song. No more Elder Scrolls. There's no Elder Scrolls 6 theme. Sorry, guys. It's gonna get copyrighted. It's gonna get DMCA'd. Is that really the solution we're heading for? Where people just don't listen to music on their streams? People just don't listen to music, to gaming music? And then, if that happens, then how do we assess the sound/music category? Right? If no one's ever listening to their music anymore, is that a word section even necessary? It's like, there's gotta be a way to make the music labels happy while not taking away from us. Like, there's so much, like, if there's so many things that people would do if copyright wasn't an issue. But it is an issue. It's not an issue in every field. Like, some issues, like, we understand. Like with movies, we understand. But when it comes to something in music, it's very complicated. There's this thing called public domain, and when after a certain amount of years, when the copyright is lifted, everything goes into public domain. But there's no longer a person who can basically own that song. It goes into public domain. Some would argue that if they're dead, it should automatically go into public domain. It should no longer be copyrighted. But the thing is, most of the time, they're not like, Michael Jackson isn't the only one who owns or is involved with that song. Usually there's some sort of record label. Usually there's someone else, someone who could technically take responsibility of the song. The question is, if Michael Jackson says on his deathbed that he wants everyone to be able to listen to his music without a penalty, but he doesn't, and then he dies, does he have the right to give that away, though? Because a lot of the times, these people, they have this thing called contracts, where they don't really own the music. It's the record labels that own the music. And Sony Records. It's whatever else there is, So if Michael Jackson says, "Hey, let everyone listen to my music," and he dies, but it might not be in his will, or if it is in his will, does he have the right to give that away? Is that his right to give away? Is that his property? I mean, it's his song, but at the same time, there's also the record label, right? For example, if someone's like, yeah, because I think actually, it's like, who owns his songs? MJJ Productions. Michael Jackson Productions. It's so hard. There's not like a right choice. I do think that is a little bit. It's definitely frustrating to constantly be having to deal with this, because people are like, oh, just don't play music on your stream, but it's not that simple. There's so many different things that where music come from. Am I just never gonna listen to music again on my streams? And I'm okay with that, but is that really what we're going to do? We just take out all the music. Like, it's kind of a shame because I can no longer experience a lot of these games in their full context because I can't listen to their songs because a lot of them are copyrighted. They have record labels. They license the music instead of make their own stuff. And so Sony Records, owns these songs and they just want to take it down. Or they want to copyright the music in it. And I will tell you, I've never received a copyright claim from someone well, actually, that's not true. Most of the time when I get copyright claimed, it's because of music. It's because something's in the music. I see what's happening. It's a difficult one. And I don't really know the solution to it, I guess. I mean, I guess when I was thinking about talking about this, I kind of had an idea. But it's really complicated. Because it's not so much fixing the copyright law, it's just adjusting it so that it makes sense in the modern day. The fair use stuff, that took place in 2015 when the internet is growing and it's still not established. But the copyright law was made in 1970 something, And I feel like it's the language for it is probably a bit dated and it doesn't make sense. To a lot of us, I mean, sure, a lot of us just wanted a change for convenience sake. But we also just want to be able to play music without having to worry about getting claimed or something, Now I understand why they exist. Is there used to be full-length movies on YouTube, and then it no longer happened because it just was all gone. I don't know if that's the there's gotta be a happy medium somewhere, right? I don't know. Is a difficult thing. And I don't know if there's a right answer. I mean, I think this is why it is so vague. But the problem is that it's so vague that no one knows what to do. No one knows what actually is fair use. And, these companies continue to abuse their rights because of this, because they know that most people won't take them to court. And if they do, there's a 50% chance, even probably a little bit higher of a chance, that they're going to win anyways. Because, the judges, they don't know what to do either, because they don't want to show favoritism. They want to keep it open-ended, but we don't know what to do. And when the lawyers are telling us that they don't know, When the lawyers say, oh, I don't know about this one, that's a problem. People are always like, oh, talk to a lawyer. But if the lawyers don't know what's going on, if the judges themselves don't know what's going on, that's a tough one. It's like, I think what needs to happen is that we need more people who are willing to go to court and actually do it. And so we can see these precedents being set, and so we can actually know what we're looking at. We need something to go to, like the Supreme Court or something. And it's like, we need a decision to be made, because everybody's just living in this world where they don't know. Some are willing to risk it, others are not, and it's very complicated. And it's like, in the world of the internet, what do we do? Now, what's interesting is that all these companies get to do all this stuff and take down all their copyrighted materials, and yet we have stuff like Pinterest that just republishes every work that is ever made on DeviantArt and all, and just reposts it without any source back to the original maker. That's an issue. Like, what about Pinterest? Cancel Pinterest. Keeps taking all these artists' work and they don't even give proper sources. But it's like, on one hand, people really want to protect their property. On the other hand, we want these companies to stop doing all this stuff. The problem is, when it comes to the law, you can't compromise. Like, you can't say, oh, this person, they get to, have these laws, but these people, they're not able to have those laws. It's like, we need to find sort of middle ground where the music, like, everybody's happy, and I think that solution is not possible. I think the real answer is trying to figure out how to make these music labels happy. To get them to back off. I mean, how much would it cost to license a song? Music licenses. Rights clearances. We give you the green light. What is Greenlight? What is this? Oh my god. What is this? I have no idea what I just stumbled upon. I don't think this is what I wanted. Like, where do you license songs? I don't know. A guide to music licensing fees. A wedding license, $59. Small business license, $349. Non-profit license, $279. That's a typical pricing anyways. I'm assuming, like, renting Beyonce is probably way more than that. Oh, man. This is kind of interesting. This is really fascinating. People are going to be salty that I... Nothing. It's like... I mean, I agree, like, you shouldn't be able to just play it in your streams, but... This is all just so complicated. Musical law, copyright is just so complicated. Because it's not just, like, the song itself. It's every part of the song that is copyrighted by someone. It's the lyrics, it's the melody, it's the notes, it's the title of the song. Like, everything is copyrighted. And it's not necessarily by Britney Spears. Like, if Britney Spears is okay with you singing her song, she doesn't actually have the right to give that away. It's her song, yes, but if Sony says no, or whoever she's with says no, it's a no. People are like, oh, but if an artist is okay with me listening to the songs, shouldn't we be allowed to listen to the songs? Well, yeah, we should, but it's not their right to give away. It's not their right to say who does it. Like, it's not their right to give that right away. An artist might say, hey, yo, I don't want any of these songs being copyrighted, but it's not their decision. They made a contract. They made a decision to not be independent. If an independent artist makes their own music and does all that stuff, yeah, then they have the right to give that stuff away. That's what happens when you have all these independent artists. That's how you get these copyright-free songs. Is they're not attached to labels, or if they are, they're labels that don't care about making money. And so they're okay with all of this stuff happening. The big record labels are not, and the artists themselves in it don't have the say of who gets to do what. And this is where it makes it really complicated, because I think us individual creators, us individual people, we genuinely don't care. Like, we understand, so we want to give you guys like free stuff to listen to and play, and we don't like the rights to us, we don't necessarily care about as much. But when it comes to these companies, they care a whole lot more, because it's how they make money. It's how they make money. And you know, I think that's where we need to change it, though. I mean, somehow need to get these companies on board with it. Find a solution that works for us and also works for them. You know, I think we would all love to move past all these like copyright issues and everything. But the problem is the laws and everything is so vague, and everyone is so conflicted of how to solve the issue, that there's no right issue, and there's no simple way of just fixing it out and fixing it all. It's just so complicated. Like, what are you gonna do? And if you the thing is, we need people to go to court about it and be able to argue these things, you know. But going to court is very expensive, and you don't know if it's gonna work. And in fact, you could actually technically make it worse by going to court. You could find yourself getting a bunch more bigger fees, and you could even find your channel being taken down entirely. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I guess the solution is there is no solution. I mean, if copyright issues could be fixed in a day, I think it already would be. But the problem is that it's so complicated, and it's not necessarily the copyright itself that needs to be fixed. It's the people who are enforcing it. I mean, we just need to be able to figure out what qualifies as fair use. It's so like, I feel like the language for fair use needs to be adjusted and fixed, because even though it was like made in 2015, I feel like so much has changed now that it needs to be looked at again, and it needs to be fixed. How do you fix it? I don't know. I'm not the lawyer. I don't think there's a correct answer. I think that we're gonna be stuck with this. I don't know. But anyways, that's all for today. That's all I wanted to talk about. And what I wanted to talk about is that I don't have a clue. I would love for there to be a simple solution. But there's not. That's a really hard one. Anyways. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. Hope to see you guys in the future. Peace out, guys. It's been a blast, I guess.